We hope you'll stay with us right throughout the day. I'll get your prediction shortly, but I know two gentlemen who dearly love to be out there this afternoon playing. Unfortunately, they're not, and I'm speaking about two captains of these two sides in Barry Stoneham and Tony Free, who managed just 5 games for the year. They're with our boundary riding king, Neil Curley. Welcome, Curls.
Thank you, Sandy. Of course, Barry, on an individual note, this is what footballers train and love to play in finals, and unfortunately won't be there. You're in the same boat as Barry. You're looking on today, unfortunately.
Certainly am, but I've been looking on for a number of weeks now, and although it's not that enjoyable, I'm still having a bit of a role with John Northey in the coaching side of things, so you know, we're looking forward to a big contest.
Now, was it you that pulled that magic move last week? Everybody's giving you credit for it.
I've taken credit too, haven't I? I suggested it, but you know, John Northey analyses that, and he actually made the move after my suggestion, so I don't mind copying a bit of credit though.
Gee, the strength of Richmond this year has been in your working area, and particularly some of your younger players, Bullis, Daffy, Rogers, Charles, Bauer and Marinda. They've all stood up and taken that step forward.
Certainly have. Past years we've had sort of 4 or 5 players carrying the workload. This year and last year we've got a very even side. If guys are down, other guys seem to step up into the fold, and that's been the key, the evenness of the side, I think.
Tony, Terry Wheeler up here. Tony, just
Terry.
Looking at the forward line there with Benny Gale and Justin Charles, I really want to know about Paul Bullis. Do you think he's going to play? Is he going to play? Because I think young Edwards would be a valuable commodity in the forward line today.
Yeah, I think Paul Bullis will play. You know, I don't think we'll play 3 talls in the forward line. I think you'll see one of them sitting on the bench. You know, on this sort of a day, I think, although it's not that wet, it's pretty comfortable down here, but I still think, you know, 2 forwards or 2 key forwards is enough.
Tony, Sandy Roberts here with Terry. I'm sorry we're not seeing you out there today, as I'm sure you are. A number of people are asking how are they going to kick enough goals today to be able to beat Geelong, but when you consider that Broderick, Campbell and Maxfield, none have kicked goals so far in this finals campaign, I guess you're hoping they're due.
Yeah, certainly are. I mean, we've been relying on midfielders and those sort of middle-sized players to kick goals. We've had Daffy kicking about 40 this year, Naish kicking quite a few. So, I mean, we've been able to kick enough goals, you know, with a key forward not kicking their 6 or 8. So, you know, if you look at our past games, the midfielders and the middle-sized players do very well, and we're very confident of kicking a winning score.
Barry, Terry Wheeler, Kenny Hinkley returning after quite a period out. How would
You'll have to get more out of your centre-half forward, full forward position this week. You relied on your crummers last week. Those big guys up front, they've got to stand up and do some work today.
They do have to a lot of work. It's a difficult, I mean, the conditions are starting to get a little bit damp, so you won't see a lot of marks, I don't think, but we've got to rely on them working hard and getting the ball into a position where the crummers can gain the ball. And we've got a lot of crummers and a lot of good middle-sized players, so the workload's, you know, an important factor.
And also, of course, Richmond's style of play, the wet conditions, I don't think is going to hurt Richmond at all.
No, I was quite chirpy coming out here in the car. You know, I think it helps us a little bit. It's certainly not wet enough to make a huge difference, but, you know, we rely on getting into the ball hard, hitting the man hard, and these conditions certainly, you know, help that along a little bit.
Well, boys, thanks very much for both of you, your time. Back to you, Sandy.
Yes, thank you, Curls, and all the very best to those two guys. We look forward to seeing them in action next year. As the crowd continues to come in, we should stress that the rain has not been heavy. It has been raining since 12 noon here in Victoria today, but the rain has not been at all heavy, and I don't think it's going to have a great effect on this ground. So that's the good news. I mean, this ground soaks it up, Terry, doesn't it?
Certainly does.
That's the good news. I mean, this ground soaks it up, Terry, doesn't it?
Certainly does. I think Tony Free being down there has given us a very good insight into that he still thinks the ball will be very manageable by the tall marking forward lines.
What a moment for some of these young Tigers. I think many people, for many weeks, have been waiting for them to fall over, but Michael Gale, as you can see there, they just refused to. And the Tiger boys, many of them wearing black armbands today, because there's Nick Daffy with John Northey because of the unfortunate death of Tom Alagos, who was a marvellous supporter of the club for many, many years. But we wish the Tigers well. And let's have a look at the lineups as they were published, and then I'll see if you'd like to juggle them around. And what do you think?
Well, the important part for Geelong was that Ablett and Hinkley, the 2 of the co-captains, have returned to the side. Lynch out with a calf injury and Hickmond omitted. And then for Richmond, that Bullis has returned after a week out with an illness, and David Burke was the player to make way for him. So there's a lot of good talent there in Hinkley and Ablett coming back to join this Geelong side. Sandy?
That is how they were published, but how do you think they will line up?
Well, I think some of the key components, Lee Colbert has done a very good in what is a more defensive role. I expect him to go and take Wayne Campbell on the wing. Mensch was named on the bench, but will need to come into centre forward. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of aggression from David Mensch at the opening of the game, and that will allow Brownless to go down and play in the forward pocket alongside Gary Ablett. And likewise with Kenny Hinkley, I'd just rather push him back one more line, right back to the back pocket, Sandy, perhaps on Rogers, just so he can ease his way back into this sort of a game.
A spot that you know very well. Can I ask you one question? Do you think Gary Ayres would have preferred a tougher lead-up than he's had?
No, I think the season has been long enough. All sides now are asked to do a lot of football right throughout, so having had that week's break last week, Sandy, I think it's been very important to freshen them up. They've got some players there who just need that little bit extra time, and none more than Gary Ablett.
Mind you, the mind games are fascinating, aren't they? Because Richmond say, look, while we're playing and winning well, we just want to keep on playing footy. So there are plenty of mind games happening in this game, and of course for the one coming up later on today at the MCG. Now, Dipper, a warm welcome to you at the MCG. Now, Dipper, a warm welcome to you.
Thanks very much, Sandy.
You'd love this finals atmosphere, wouldn't you?
I certainly do, Sandy, but I'm here at the Members Reserve here at Waverley, and I've caught up with a few people who have played the game, actually coached the side playing today, the Tigers, and now is one of the best commentators on Channel 7, besides you and me, Sandy, and also on Magic Radio. Now, I'm talking about Kevin Bartlett. Kevin, we're on air here. Are you on air as well? Are you on air as well? Yes, we are. Okay. Now, Kevin, you've coached the Tigers. I'll take it back. 1980, second semi-final versus Geelong. You kicked 8 goals out here. True or false?
No, that is true. In fact, it was a day that was very much like today, with rain drizzling down, and we played the Cats, and it was pretty slippery conditions. And I was speaking to Francis Burke before, and we just couldn't believe that it's 15 years ago since that last time the Cats played the Tigers out here in a final.
Now, radio's going well at the moment. Ratings are very good for Magic.
Yes, we're very pleased. We've had a terrific year, and I've got the team with Slamming Sam Kekovich and, of course, Stephen Quartermain and Tony Shaw. We got him the job at Collingwood, actually. No one ever heard of him until he worked at Magic, and then all of a sudden he pops up as the coach at Collingwood. You couldn't believe it.
Now, of course, the Count Calorie here.
Yes, Paul Kelly, the greatest player that played league football under 5'2".
In one word, a tip for today?
I'm tipping the Tigers by 10 points.
All right, boys. Good luck. Now, Sandy, we're going to catch up with another broadcaster who we know very, 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 very well, and that is, of course, Rex Hunt. Let's catch up to see what he's got up to do. Knock, knock, knock. Rexy. Good afternoon, Rex. Now, you've actually played for the Tigers and you've played for the Cats. Is there a tip for you today?
Well, my heart says the Tigers, but my brain says the Cats, so it should be a pretty close game, Dipper. But I've got great memories from both sides, but of course, the premierships I played with Richmond in the 60s and 70s certainly say to me that it could be the Tigers. Let's hope so.
The Tigers. Now, Ron Barassi, who's your tip for today?
My tip is Geelong, even though I'm coaching, because of what Rex has just said, Richmond.
And Sam, you've played over 300 games for the Cats. Who are you going for today?
Well, Dipper, I am going for Geelong, not because I played for them, but because they've had a week's rest, and the rain won't matter to both sides. If you can play, you can play, and if you had a week's rest, you'll be even better played.
And Bondi?
Well, I've got to stick with the mighty Tigers, Dipper.
Tigers. And one man who knows all about football is, of course, Shane Healy. Shane, one word.
Like Dermy, I'm going for the Cats.
And the man who knows everything about football, Dermot Brewerton. Who you go for, buddy?
Robert? Yeah, I'm going for Geelong.
Sandy, before we leave here, mate, we might get Rex to do one of the biggest calls of all time.
29 minutes to go in the last quarter. Here comes the duck off the back line, but he dropped the ball. It went to Hinkley. Hinkley picked it up. He gave it a ball to Hocking. Hocking's kicked it down to Ablett. And Ablett's picked the goal. Geelong are 1 to 5.
Well done, Rex. Thanks very much, guys. The Tigers are now running on, Sandy, so back to you, buddy.
Yes, thank you very much, Dipper. Go and tidy up as eat 'em alive, says the banner. Through come the Tigers. Scotty Turner, nearest camera. Is he going to be the man, Terry, that's going to get the job initially on number 5?
I think he should be given first go at. A very good defender, but was great in the forward line last week.
Well, there they are. Brendan Gale had a quiet one. He'll be looking to turn things around this week. Wayne Campbell at the back. He's one of the Brownlow medal favourites. Stuart Edwards there also. Chris Naish, Matty Knights, who kicked those inspirational goals, and they really did fire up. Not only did they keep Richmond in that game early, but they then appeared to fire them up.
It did. Nash and Daffy, just that little bit extra freedom that they were able to get, and Nash finishing up with 2 or 3 goals in the second half was very good. Wayne Campbell's been an excellent player right throughout, Sandy, and will be dominant on the wing. Wigney, I think, will get a job at centre half back, a most important position for him. But this is one of the strengths of the Richmond side at the moment. I think it's the crowd. I mean, the supporters have been absolutely fantastic. Yep. You know, Richmond at the MCG, I'd really back them, but just that Waverley, you know, dissipates that sort of support and roar from the crowd. So I think they're a little bit of disadvantage here, but Richmond supporters, get right behind your side here today.
Don't you worry, there'll be plenty of atmosphere here at Waverley Park this afternoon. A crowd of around 70,000 as the Tigers stand by to warm up for this first preliminary final. The Cats will be out shortly. We'll take a break and then be back with all the action.
Football, basketball and racing. Just 3 of them.
Sandy.
So both sides now come across for the national anthem. Matthew Knights, Nick Daffy there. Chris Bond. Mark Miranda. An overcast day. Only light.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Australian Football League and Coca-Cola welcome you to today's first preliminary final. Would you now please stand for the playing of the national anthem?
And so we're just about set for a start in this first preliminary final on 7 Super Saturday of football.